Here we are. New patch notes. Man, when Jeff said he was increasing the rate that they're going to be patching, fuck, who knew? Who knew they're going to release something this quick? So let's go over this. Hero updates. Hanzo. Storm arrows. Damage reduction from 70 to 60. Who called it? I called it. This guy. 2 thumbs. The big thing is, against 200 hit point heroes, it adds an extra hit. Or, like, he has to crit 1, and then hit 2 more times. Either way, it's the change that was needed. 70 damage is ridiculous. Now we get down to the controversial change. McCree. Health increased from 200 to 250. Yes, and someone said Hanzo needs more of a nerf. He does. Hanzo's still amazing. He's still a sniper with close, long-range options, an average health pool, and some of the highest mobility in the game. Literally has everything. So a lot of people are like, first of all, if you're on the forums, a lot of people are like, why didn't Sim get this? This is something Sim really needed. But they gave it to McCree. Why did they give it to McCree? Well, they nerfed his fire rate back to 0.5. So this is a full revert from when he got buffed. Now the thing at this point, I think they statistically said, like, McCree does, it was something like 15% or 18% less damage than any other DPS in the game. Or than most DPS in the game. So that's why they increased his attacks. So they revert that. So right now, statistically, McCree is still doing less damage than everyone in the game. So what do? They increase his health from 200 to 250. This is incredibly important because, like, a lot of the damage thresholds are really tailored around 70 damage and 200 hit points. Because it's like, that's why, like, Ana, she did 80 damage a shot, and they reduced it to 60, and then they increased it to 70 so she can still 3-shot 200 hit point heroes. Honestly, I think support should always take 4 hits to kill something, instead of 3 with 70 damage. But that's another discussion. So the increase to 250 is actually pretty big. It's actually really big, and I think if they undid all of the DPS buffs in the last year and gave all those DPS heroes 50 more hit points, we would have a lot funner of a game. Because this allows a little bit more forgiveness, and why it works really well with McCree and not any other hero is McCree needs to be closer than Soldier. So Soldier has mobility, and he has healing. And he has a lot longer range. McCree does not. McCree's fall off, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, does it start at 15 meters or is it 25? I think it's 25 to 35 is his fall off, if I remember correctly. So he still needs to get closer than than most other hit scan heroes. I think McCree is the most severe fall off. Yeah, so he has to be closer to everyone, and he doesn't really have mobility. He has roll, but it's 10-second cooldown. It's, it's not the best. Look, he says it starts at 20 meters. Yeah, for a hit scan starting at 20 meters, it's actually really low. So McCree naturally has to be closer than any other hit scan hero in the game, but has no mobility. So instead of giving him more mobility or more damage, just give him more health. I think it's a very reasonable thing. Now, like, he's really good against Tracer and Genji. Like, as an anti-dive hero, I think McCree's your go-to guy now. Especially with Fan the Hammer, like, alright, he gets dove on by Winston and someone else. Even, whoever gets dove on is getting stunned and then flashed. So, it's a really good, it's a really good way to deal with dive. And people are like, well, people aren't playing dive. Well, with the changes coming up right below here, double shield, I don't know what's going to happen to him. Also, Deadeye, firing Deadeye no longer locks players' aim. So essentially, you could only aim forward before. And now you can do, like, you can lock on people, do a 360, and then lock, and then point them again and shoot. Well, actually, sorry, that's not correct. You can lock onto people, and while you're shooting, you can move. before, like, you charged up full and you sit there, it locks your aim, it locks your positioning, and you go bam, 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 bam. And now you can just start fucking going all willy-nilly. So if someone, like, flanked you, you can go bam, bam, bam. You can turn all the way over here and shoot that guy now if you charged up Deadeye. So, I really like it. Spaghetti says, I feel like them reverting the fire rate completely was a bit much. No. No. And this is going to be the general feeling for me and this how I feel about this patch, and maybe how Blizzard feels about it. Stop fucking around with small changes. If you do not make a change and it is not felt, fuck it. Don't do it. Ever. Like, straight. Just stop doing these stupid small changes. If you do a change and you cannot feel the effect in-game immediately, fuck it. Blizzard is not balanced to the point where they can do these super tiny changes and make things better. And people are like, oh, we need you to patch more often and more often. Okay, cool. I'm going 0.1 centimeter. Oh, every 2 months now instead of once every 6 months. No, just go. Just go. And this has a lot to do with the community. If you fuck up a hero, cool. You got 32 others to pick from. And I know, like, well, Crow, what if they fucked up Junkrat? I'd still play him. He'd be the worst hero in the game. I'd still play him. I don't care. If they fuck up a hero and it's erased from the game, cool. What happens is the game changes. And that is what is important. Do you remember in that post that we reviewed the other day, and Jeff's like, look, all right, I get it. Meta has to change quicker. I got it. Just shut up. I got it. Okay, I understand. This is it. He's like, all right, fine. We're going to fuck things up. And if your hero becomes unplayable, we'll fix it next patch. You have to play like that for 2 months. And I agree with it 100%. Take heroes out. If you can't balance them, like, try to balance them. And if it doesn't work, okay, sorry, fix it. That's it. Yeah, for a month or 2 months, it may be unplayable. Well, people can play other heroes, right? That you said it yourself, Blizzard. You said it yourself. It's all about, like, people should have to master, like, not a lot of heroes, but a couple. So, fucking put your money where your mouth is. Fuck up the game. Make people play another hero. That is why I'm kind of getting sick of these tiny little changes. And they're finally doing things that are affecting everyone. So, people are like, oh, this is too heavy. Oh, 0.08 seconds. Oh my god, McCree's gonna... Shut the fuck up. He's not gonna be useless. He's perfectly fine. 50 extra health. If you lowered every DPS guy in the game's DPS by 20% and increased all of their hit points by 50 hit points, I'd be so happy. I'd be so goddamn happy in the game. But that's it. Reaper passive. Healing amount reduced from 40% to 30%. Cool. People just come by complaining about that. He was too oppressive against tanks. Bam. Change. Cool. I think that's a good change. And now for what could be the changes we've needed since Orisa came out. Damage from 11 to 9. I think it's close to a 20% chance. I think it's like 18.8 or something percent damage reduction. Huge. The biggest thing about this is that Orisa gets a lot of damage from crits. So you're going to be feeling this one. Fortify, 2 extra seconds. Great. She's killable. Right? 2 extra seconds. Wonderful. Halt. For the love of God. Finally, they addressed the fact that, yeah, we know it's like a 7-meter AoE. It's bigger than Zarya's ult, and she gets it every, a couple seconds, and it's amazing ability, and it works through walls sometimes, and it slows you. It's like, let's just nerf the slow by 0.35 seconds. I don't think that's nearly enough. I would rather have it just completely gone. I don't know why her and Sigma have slow after their abilities. The usefulness is the ability, not the slow afterwards. So or the usefulness should be the ability and not the slow afterwards. I don't like how it's like, oh, you did everything. Like, I don't like how Sigma's ult does 50 damage off the bat. I think doing a flat 50 damage, or 50% of everyone's health is perfect. Without any slow, without any 50% initial damage. Shit just does too much. Like, why does a slam do extra damage and slow and take all my health? Ridiculous. So Orisa, and I get this is the big problem. This is going to be the problem with Orisa, and we'll over Sigma when we'll talk about the tank problem. Hyperspheres. Range reduced from 22 meters to 20. I thought it was 20 all the time. This is news to me, but I'm great. The problem with this, I wish it was a harder nerf. I wish it was down to 18 meters. Right? Like I said, I want changes to be felt. I want changes to completely change sometimes how a hero is played. I think this type of shakeup is needed. When you have a meta, you don't just want to, oh, we'll change the meta. Well, let's change the meta. No, like, change the fucking meta. Just be like, that's the meta now. Bam, new meta. Guess what? Meta. It's a flying meta now. Like, change it. Stop doing these little shit changes and change it. I want this. I still want Hanzo and Sigma nerfed more. They're still amazing heroes. Basically, if you run into Sigma or Hanzo on the flank, you eat it. Graviton Flux can now be interrupted before targets begin falling. I don't know why this wasn't a thing. I would love to be a fly on Blizzard's wall, and they're just like, all right, guys, Sigma's ult. Should it be ever interruptible? And they're like, so you mean when this 400 hit point guy with a 900 900 hit point shield is flying around launching 110 damage volleys at people? Should he be stunned and stop his ult? No, that's fucking crazy. You're fired. Don't ever say that again. Like, no, yeah. Why shouldn't it just treat it like everyone else? He gets stunned during his ult. It's canceled. Done. Impact slow reduced from 0.9 to 0.6 seconds. I think this should be removed. I would love it if there was less control in the game, and I mean to the point where I don't think McCree's flashbang should stun targets. I think it should remove movement abilities for 5 seconds, and that is it. Like, do something crazy like that. I think this slow and stun stuff, I think it needs to kind of go away. His rock. Explosion damage reduced from 60 to 40. So, for people that don't know how damage calculations are done in Overwatch, whenever you have explosion damage, you also have a direct damage. So most things in the game only deal direct damage, right? Like a soldier shooting you does 20 direct damage. But Junkrat's grenades do 80 direct damage, 80 splash damage, and then 50 direct damage, for a total of 130. So, Accretion, I don't exactly know. Well, it was 60 damage before, and it did 90. So it does 30 direct damage. It used to do 60 explosion damage for a total of 90. The big thing that this changes is that Sigma's primary attack, and I think this is why they nerfed Rock, is they didn't want to nerf his primary attack. Primary attacks did 110. Rock used to do 90, 200. He used to be able to essentially one-shot heroes. This removed that. If he hits you with a rock and then lands a volley on you, you survive with 20 hit points. This is really good. I don't think a shield tank should ever have that much damage, and I don't think a shield tank should ever have a quote-unquote one-shot. I just don't think it should, especially at like 20 meters. That's really ridiculous to have a one-shot. It's a two-shot technically, but basically if you don't hit your rock, you don't shoot. I mean, it's not like you're wasting your primary attacks. He doesn't have a reload animation, so it's pretty good. Baptiste, recovery time on his primary shot from 0.36 to 0.45. So this is a full revert of the Baptiste buff. I think Baptiste needs to get hit with a straight up damage. He does 25 damage a shot. It should probably be like 22 or 20. I just think supports deal too much damage. Bionic, his heal got nerfed as well. this on top of his 20% nerfed alt charge, he's finally going to be charging alt a bit slower. So do I not like charge? Oh, Reinhardt's charge? No. I find... So, yeah, tanks with one-shot ability. Because Reinhardt has ability, and it's movement-based, and he has to be fully committal, and it really leaves him for a... He's super wide open. It's super telegraphed. It's not fast like Doomfist Punch, and Doomfist has other abilities to get out. No, I'm fine with Reinhardt's. That's why it didn't even register to me as a one shot, because it's so over the top. His ult still charges fast. Spaghetti says, "No, I know. Baptiste ult used to charge in like 10. I think there's someone at a clip of 10 seconds. So now it's going to take like 14 seconds. That's great in like the best case scenario, but for most cases, it's going to be like 15 to 20, and now it's probably like, let's say, 25 seconds. Like, it's getting better. It's in the right direction. I think he just needs a straight up damage. So, overall, what do I want to say about this patch? One, it's great. We finally just nerf shit. Great. Just nerfing across the board. That's what we need to do. Every time something happens, just start smacking people. And if it's like Orisa, and you gotta smack her hard. Smack her hard. It's okay to fuck up a hero. Why? It changes the meta. It gives the player base something to focus on. I understand part of the player base is going to be alienated because they only play that hero. But as a guy that only plays Junkrat, take him out of the fucking game. I don't care. I'm still going to play him. It doesn't matter how bad you make him. It's about shaking up the meta and making it different. Just make the game change. Or give the players the ability to change it themselves. It's just... this is how Blizzard has to go about changes. And the big changes about this is that no one liked playing against these heroes, and people didn't like playing as them. And they were the best choice, so they just nerfed them. And they're like, oh man, people aren't going to want to be playing tanks now. Kind of true. But that's the problem with tanks, is that they have hit points, they have damage, they have... Some have mobility, some have shields, like, they have everything. Why would you ever not want to play them? Because they're the most strongest thing in the game. And now that they're brought back down, all of a sudden it's like, alright, why do I want to play this guy if he's not the best? Like, I'd rather just play DPS. So, while this may make some tanks unpopular, or Sigma, we're going to start seeing every other tank. Dive is definitely going to make a comeback. And I've been saying this for a while, and I will still say it. The strength with double shield was not double shield. It was their mid-range damage. And Orisa got smacked with that damage. Sigma, I think he still needs some adjustment on his damage. But I get they don't want to hurt him or Orisa anymore because shields were changed and people have a negative kind of like association to that. And now that they're nerfed again here, people don't like they're not gonna. They really don't want to play this. And if they nerf them anymore, I think people would just be like, all right, they're out of the picture. And while I support that, I'm fine if they nerf Sigma and Orisa to where they were unplayable. As long as they've changed them later on. Like, I'm okay with them making a mistake and making them playable. I've said it like 4 or 5 times this conversation alone. At least it changes the game. It changes things. And I get that it may not be the nicest way to go about it, but at least it changes things. But again, with all these changes, we have to understand that something is coming out next week. And the only hints we got is that it affects balance and it affects queue time. We got nothing else to go off. So I think this patch, Blizzard, and I don't mean any disrespect to Jeff Kaplan. I understand how the guy thinks. I do. Me and Jeff, we're like that. Alright? when you give him a problem, he'll be like, all right, well, that guy's not that smart. He sees a problem, but that's a symptom. That's not actually the issue. You know what? Let's attack this issue from a different angle and complete the same thing in a better way than he thinks, because he's just looking at it from, like, you know, an outsider's perspective. Blizzard finally stopped trying to be smarter than everyone here, including Jeff. Finally, they just go, oh, well, that's just a symptom. Oh, you don't like double shield? That's just a symptom. Oh, you don't like Widow? That's just a symptom. Finally, they just sat down, shut the fuck up, and they go, that's the problem. Let's deal with it. They stopped trying to think circles around people. They're like, oh, well, we'll buff Hero Y because Hero X is an issue. But Y is not the exact solution. But Y promotes Hero 0, and 0 deals with, you know, X really well. That's how we'll do it. Oh, it's going to be so smart, guys. And then people look at this and they're like, nah, we're just going to play this hero again and just win with it still. Foxo says it. He says, stop the 4D chess in this game of checkers. Yes. I understand that they want an elegant solution to everything and they don't want to upset people. Look, I'm going to put this on YouTube. People on YouTube, hello. Guess what happened when I played on the PTR? No one was there. It was a 20-minute queue for quick play, and then I had to host my own custom game, in which case I had to wait till like 100 stream viewers were on, and then we finally got a game going of just 12 people. No one's playing the PTR because it's only nerfs. People don't really want to be like, man, how do I want to spend the next hour? Oh, let's play Orisa when she's really weak. That sounds super fun. I get it. You remember when Goats, they tried buffing Reaper to counter that meta and it didn't work in the pro scene? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Stop trying to buff counters and start trying to nerf the problem. They nerfed the problem this time. Everything that every YouTuber and GM, I'll use the exact same goddamn verbiage from their post yesterday. Oh, the meta is, you know, they see the meta is stale by Grandmaster players, Overwatch League, and YouTubers and streamers. And they actually don't play that meta, but they see it as it's stagnant, so they complain about it. Even though they don't play it like that. Well, guess what, Jeff? Fucking play it like that. He said it himself, perception is often reality. And guess what? Your entire player base perceived these things as being issues, and 3 years after the game is released, you finally start treating them like, oh, they are issues. So, I hope Blizzard, like, this is everything everyone was complaining about, except for McCree. No one was like, McCree's ridiculous, or anything like that. The McCree stuff was just, maybe they thought with these changes, double shield would be too weak, and everyone would go dive, and there wouldn't be a dive answer. And they didn't want to create old Brig, so they're just like, alright, let's buff McCree. Let's not make him super offensive, but let's make him a little bit tankier so he can deal with dive heroes. And that's what they did. McCree is amazing against dive right now. He's incredibly strong. Fails Lux says no one plays PTR because there's nothing but a preview of things guaranteed to come. They hate the lack of influence. That's true. Goldmane says, I'm hoping they bring more out than just this. Do you think there will be more coming with these changes? I don't think there will be any changes until whatever happens next. But I like this. I really like this. They stopped beating around the bush. They nerfed the problem. And yeah, so people are talking about that. I like McCree's slower fire rate. It just makes the whole game feel better. I was watching CarQ, and he made the analogy, and I don't know if it fits perfectly, but he's like, man, it feels like on live, McCree almost feels like a tracking hero. And with the slower fire rate, he feels more like a hit scan. Like a proper hit scan. You take a shot, you look for your next shot, you take a shot. Like, it's very deliberate. Which, just to talk aesthetics for a second, when you have a hero like McCree with a slower fire rate and a big shot of damage, you kind of want that feeling. You don't want to feel like a machine gun. As counterintuitive as it seems, when you fire as fast as a machine gun, like, I think a player's brain will immediately think, oh, it's going to be less damage, but it's actually a lot of damage. So I really like the feel that McCree has with the slower fire. Jeff has said that they placed in the PTR and some form of it will go live. Yeah, I expect this all to go live. I think all these changes are amazing. Like I said, McCree was the only one, and that's not even a nerf, it's a pivot. But I would consider this a buff against dive. The only thing it hurts is McCree's shield break damage, but guess what? Look at your 2 shielder heroes. They just got smacked. So, oh no, I don't break shields as fast. But guess what? Your shields are a lot weaker now. I think this is, if nothing else, as a top 500 player, I'm going to be running into different things, and I'm happy. Right now I'm sitting top 50. And I've only played my 25 games because, you know, I haven't gotten around to playing more. But the last 2 seasons, I finished top 50 as well. I have never done better in Overwatch than this period of time, like the last 6 months. And never have I had less fun in Overwatch than I have in the last. It's a really shit thing to say. Like, I don't even feel good about it. I'm like, yeah, I'm top 50. Whatever, like, it sucks. It sucks. And these changes are finally, even if they delete the heroes, we're gonna have a new meta, boys. We're gonna have a new meta. I don't see double shield. I don't see double shield being significantly better than every other composition now. I think right now double shield is just slightly below other comps, if not equal with other comps. But because this has been nerfed to such a high degree, people will immediately see this as a really bad thing, and they're just like, Orisa and Sigma are useless. Useless. No longer playable. These guys are still super good heroes, and they're still playable, and if you one-trick these heroes, you will still reach top 500. So, don't worry about it more. Don't worry about it, but we will see a definite change. At least in meta. I've not felt this good for an Overwatch patch in a long time. This actually makes me hopeful. And I know a lot of people don't like nerf patches. I love them. Because I've told this story before. Throughout my studying of game balance across like a lot of games, even games I don't play, I still research it. About 20 years ago, everyone always said, don't nerf heroes. Nerfing is bad. Just buff the bad heroes. If you buff everyone into balance, then everything is balanced. Buff everyone to be overpowered, then it's perfectly balanced. And I thought to myself, and back in the day I'd post in the forums, and I'd just be like, guys, that's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard. That's so stupid. And they're like, what do you know? Have you released a AAA title? I think not. Then you can't comment on balance. I'm like, no, that's still a pretty dumb idea. And Overwatch has done this. The last 2.5 years, we've seen what happens when you only buff and you try to deal with counters and you try to do all this like forced meta. It sucks. It really sucks. If one hero counters another, then why ever run that first one? You're just going to run a composition that just can't get countered, and then everyone runs it. And that's exactly what we've had in GOATs. We find a meta, and nothing can deal with that meta except for itself, so we get constant mirror matches. Yeah. Buffing doesn't get us out of the problem. Nerfing, you have to nerf. You have to address the problem. I understand Blizzard wanted to go around it by some really cunning ways, but it's time to stop fucking around. I am in extreme opinion, and this is just please take this with a grain of salt. I want to say for American esports, Overwatch League Season 3 or whatever we are right now, if it doesn't work, esports is probably never going to happen in North America. We have just the biggest investors, the most amount of money we've ever seen in a North American esport ever, just being thrown at Overwatch League. And because of the balance, because of how things are played, it's done garbage. Like, we need Overwatch League to succeed so that in America, right now, like, yeah, we have the hero stories of people, like gamers that make millions of dollars, but it's nowhere near like that in any other game or any other country. Where, like, oh, I'm an e-athlete, or, you know, I play esports. You can't say that in America right now. You can't. You're still laughed at. It's still not a thing that people, you know, associate. In South Korea, you get an athletic visa to go to other countries if you're you know, an esport guy. The government there treats it differently. Here, it's still a fucking joke. So, we have Project A, though. I think that may be another thing that's going to kick Blizzard in the ass to get things done right. And I think that's why we're not seeing a lot of... Either because of the changes next week that I don't know of, or because of the general negativity around Overwatch when it comes to player skill. That's why we're not seeing Widow in this nerf list. I think Widow is going to become an issue. But if you basically delete the hero or nerf the hero that everyone says, oh, it's a less bastion of skill, we're going to have a lot of rough stuff. Here in Europe, we have the ESL, which is a bit more established. Yeah, no, like European players, especially, yeah, StarCraft 2, there's a lot of European players. There's just, Europe has a really good esports scene. And I don't know if it's like, I'm not super into like the technicalities of all the esports stuff that go on, but DreamHack, like, it's huge. DreamHack is gigantic, and it's known. Just they have a lot more, I don't know, openness for the idea of that. So, like, we really do need Overwatch League to do well as an American esport. And guys, balance matters. It has to be fun. They have to have things change. And they have to force change. They can't fuck around with these little itty-bitty changes. They have to do big, sweeping changes. And let's just say, for whatever reason, fuck it, Winston is the most overpowered hero out of this meta. Whatever happens, let's just say Winston, you have to play him every game, and he just destroys everyone. Nerf him. Nerf him to fucking hell. Take him out of the game. I don't care. Like, just change stuff. Constantly keep it changing. I think I've harped on that enough. I've repeated myself way too many times. So, that's my general feel about the patch. It leaves me hopeful. If they do more changes like these every month, or every month and a half, or 2 months, it's going to take another half a year, but Overwatch may be in a good spot. We'll see what they have planned for next week. And we have Overwatch 2 on the horizon. Things are going a good way, and I really wish, and I know we're going to get the dev update, I really want Jeff to speak about why this complete 180 on development and balance changes happened. I would really like some insight into that. Like, what really pushed him to do this? What made him to actually go, hey, Sigma's an issue, let's really hit him. And let's not hit him in one way, let's nerf him 3 ways across the board. I'm really curious. You're cautiously excited. Birdie B, we've all been burnt, right? Everyone said, hey, roll Q 222. This is going to fix Overwatch. Well, they kind of introduced Sigma and really screwed everything up. And then they're like, no, we're going to fix Sigma. We're gonna balance them. And they redid all the shields, and you're just like, nothing changed. It's the same shit. And they're like, oh, no, we're really going to patch stuff this time. And they released the, the notes from last week. And we're like, okay, that's cool. But nothing really changed. And then finally, they do this. So we've been tricked 6-7 times by now. I understand why you're cautiously optimistic. That's how I am. I want Overwatch to do well, and it's really good to see this. It really does. So anyone that's getting down about the patch, don't. If you're just super tied to, I don't know, Orisa, you're just like, I'm an Orisa one trick, and this hurts my feelings. Man, as an Orisa one trick, you've been hurting people's feelings since the hero came out. Deal with it. Try to make the hero still work, and that will prove to you and everyone else that you are actually good on that hero, and not just fucking around. But this is the type of changes that are necessary, even if you upset your player base. And this leads to one of the questions I've always wanted to ask Jeff Kaplan, and man, if a Blizzard associate's watching, I doubt it. If someone that can talk to people in Blizzard and you reach Jeff, please, for the love of God, ask him this question, or let me ask it for him. I go, Jeff, and I look him right in the eyes. I say, Jeff, I love you, but can you truly balance a game if you're afraid of your player base? And I don't know what he would say. I don't know what he would tell me. He would probably give me some bullshit, and I'd be like, no, like, before this patch, you were afraid of your player base and what would happen if you upset them. And nothing changed, ever. With any patch, nothing ever changed. And now look, you upset people, but things are changing for the better. Probably corporate managerial double talk. Probably, that's exactly what would happen. I've wanted to ask him that for like a year or two now. It's been the constant issue ever since. Guess what, guys? When I said Tracer and Genji need to be nerfed back in Season 2. They needed nerf dive, upset people, and balance the game. They didn't, and then Brig was created. Doomfist was created. Sombra was created. All these heroes to deal with dive was created. And they finally fixed the issue, and it costed them... Like, it's that fucking Thanos meme. Right? He's like, I killed dive. But what did it cost you? Everything. That's the meme. It sucks, but that's it. Yeah. Do you have any other questions? It sucks uploading like a 40-minute video of me just bitching in a camera, because YouTube will be like, people are just like, what? I'm not gonna look at you watch. I'm not watching this for 40 minutes. I'm like, sorry about that. He upset a lot of people. Remember all the merch? Oh, true. That's right. When they got rid of Moth Meta. Funny. It's really ironic. Moth Meta. I think that was the most dominant meta ever to exist, like outside of goats. While you always had to have a Mercy, it was the most diverse meta we've ever seen. You were required to have a Mercy, but you saw everything. You saw like 3 tank, you saw 2 tank, you saw 3 DPS, you saw 2 or 3 support. Like you ran a lot of stuff. You saw double sniper, you saw no snipers, you saw close in with Mei. Like, you saw a lot of stuff. It was really cool. It just sucked that Mercy came in and immediately res 2 people from her ult. Do I think the Orisa change will be enough for her? Yeah. The damage reduction, I mean, it's an 18% damage reduction. 20% increase, or whatever, 25% probably. Just numbers are tricky. I would like this to be gone. The thing about... I would rather have, like, either this. Get rid of the slow, reduce the AoE. Obviously, they want her to have some type of control, because... let's pivot from Blizzard to... Or, sorry, from Overwatch to, let's say, Dota, because I know Dota. But it's true for all MOBAs. When you have a tank, tanks aren't known for doing the most damage. Except in Overwatch. They're amazing at damage. But in most times, tanks don't really provide a lot of damage. So when you're in a big team fight, the tanks start fighting and there's all this other stuff. And like if the tanks are right-clicking you, especially late game, it's like, well, whatever. Like, alright, he's hitting me, no big deal. What usually tanks do is they provide some type of control. And it's on a lower cooldown. So that it's like, alright, if we don't deal with this stupid beefy hero, he's just going to constantly stun us and constantly do this to us. Like, you have to address the threat that is the tank. In Overwatch, the same holds true. Tanks just can't be a brainless, barrier bot, they would call it, right? They can't just be a shield guy and just sits there with a shield and they're like, oh, I love what I do. I just hold the shield and it gets blown up and I put up another shield and that's what I play Overwatch for. They need to have some type of threat they bring to the battlefield. And it can't just be raw damage, because why? Well, they got 500 hit points, then they just win. So it usually comes into the effect of control. And so that's what halt is. And halt is really good. I think just the fact that it pulls people together is enough as it is. Like, the 1 second slow is ridiculous. So they didn't want to get rid of her control with the large AoE. They wanted that. You need your tanks to have some sort of control or damage or something to be a constant threat to the enemy team. Else, A, it's boring, and B, it's just boring. It just sucks to play as and play against. So that's why I don't think her AoE got nerfed on halt, and they targeted the slow. Same thing with Sigma. They nerfed. This is fine. This was honestly, I bet some guy, instead of putting 20 for his range, like Sigma range equals, he just accidentally held down 2 and he hit 2 2s. Instead of 2-0. This seems like what it should be designed for. This just seems like, honestly, this seems like a bug fix that he couldn't be interrupted. I like this, just less control here. And then he got rid of his one-shot. But he still has an amazingly flexible shield. He still has 110 damage per volley. He still can bank it around corners. Like, he's still really good. He's still a threat in multiple aspects. With Sigma, it's more about like shield flexibility and damage rather than control, like Orisa. They're basically like two different, very very narrow difference shield tanks, if you will. Technically, the one shot still exists, but the one shot isn't a 20-meter range. Yeah, I guess he can melee you. But whatever. At that point, I don't care. I don't consider melee part of one shots. If you have to be within melee range of someone for a one shot, well, fuck. Okay, you got me. So yeah, Hog sad. I don't consider Hog a one shot though. And even if you did consider it a one shot, it's on an 8-second cooldown that's blocked by shields, that doesn't do damage to shields. Sorry, it does 30 damage to shields. Doesn't really do any damage to shields, and can be protected against because the hook takes time. That you can get healed. Diva can eat it. Zarya can block the damage. You have things that you can do. Hog, Hog is a combo, but not only that, it's just a combo you can deal in multiple ways. That's what makes Hog, I think, from a design perspective, I really like what Hog is. He's a really cool tank hero. He truly is a tank hero, even though he doesn't quote-unquote tank like other people say. He does the exact same thing the tanks do, but in a different way. And just because people don't understand that doesn't mean he's less. Nanoblade one-shots? With Dash, yeah. Did I see the Box Ghost message? No. We'll do some... Still find it absolutely hilarious that they decided not to include explanations for each change that they typically do with these patch notes. So no, they will when they release it on live. That's when they usually do it. Usually in the PTR they don't have that. Any changes? No bias is a Hog one trick. Technically, I'm not a Hog one trick. I mean, right? You can't call me a Hog one trick and a Junkrat 1 trick. That's 2 tricks. Oh, you. Okay, gotcha. So that's the opposite of 1. Not -1, but 2 tricks. The only real big gripe with Hog was Hook 1.0. Yeah, I know. You could hook people from King's Row when you're on Elios. I got it. Yeah. Hook 1.0 was ridiculous. I mean, you could throw hooks above a wall. They'd be here. It would be like, click. It was... Time-space hook was amazing. You know, same thing like Blimp Tire. They were amazing things, and while they existed for a short time and they left a great impression in our hearts, they couldn't stay. So with no other questions, then this will be at Crow and the YouTube video. Done. Great. Do you think the new system is going to be hero bans or something else? God damn it! I did an outro. I talked about it on my YouTube video, and we talked about it last night. It's not bans. Jeff confirmed it's not bans. Personally, I think it's going to be some sort of skill tree, talent thing. Basically something that allows you to change how your hero works on the fly to deal with the enemy composition instead of bans. Essentially, God, I hate doing this a second time, but I'll just do it, and we'll end the YouTube video after this. For you to balance a game, you need axes you can pivot on. And MOBAs have hero, you have item, and you have a talent tree. And this allows you to get to like an answer right here that you're like, alright, this is how we're going to get to this answer. And based on the enemy team, they went like this. And so you're like, alright, well, I need to get an item that gets me there. Whoa, sorry, this one. And the answer's over here, and they're like, alright, well, my skill tree gets me closer to there, and that's how I'm going to have to fight this answer. It allows you to, throughout the game, to deal with your opponent's strategy and your team strategy on the fly. So it allows these really granular changes that you can make just to deal with the game as a single hero. Overwatch got rid of all that complexity. They said, why have items? Why have skill trees? Why have any of that? Why don't you just allow people to change heroes, and the hero is basically the item, or the hero is the way you play. So if you want to play a flanking style, you pick the flanker. If you want to go down, just shove, a hammer down their face, you pick the strategy and the heroes that just put a hammer in people's faces. While that worked in theory, it doesn't work in practice because, unless the game's perfectly balanced and you can operate 4 or 5 different strategies and they're all equal on every single map, if that doesn't happen, then you get into a stale meta where people find the easiest thing to do and the best thing to do, and they just run that all the time. And that's what happened in Overwatch. People figured the game out. They're like, look, with goats, they're like, look, if we have 3 times as many hit points as you, and we have shields, and we're healing through all this, what can you do? You can't. You just can't. So, do I think I might try to do the same thing to McCree to other heroes? I hope so. I would love, like I said in the beginning, if they removed every DPS buff in the last year to 2 years, and they gave all those DPS heroes more health, that'd be so good. Does this patch help Junkrat or not? So, the good thing about this patch as a Junkrat player, Hanzo got nerfed. Alright, so the 2 greatest threats to Junkrat, Widow, Hanzo. The 3rd threat, McCree. McCree's really, really good against her. In fact, he's an incredibly terrifying person against her. So we'll see less Hanzo. So long range, I won't be as afraid. McCree, we get, especially with his slower attack speed, we're going to be able to shoot more. We can move around the battlefield more. I can essentially concussive mine a bit more and not be punished like I would against the Hanzo because they just shoot you and you're dead. That's great. The other great thing is 250 hit points doesn't change much for Junkrat. Outside of double concussive mine, he still dies to most things you do. So, as a Junkrat, I'm not. This is a buff to me as a Junkrat player. This is a buff. Yeah, you may have more balls to try to push me, but if I hit 2 shots, you're dead. If I hit you with a shot and concussive, you die. It's just 2 concussive mines won't kill you, which, you know, those things are literally hit and miss, so that's fine. Reaper, this is null. Doesn't even register as a Junkrat player. Cool. Orisa is weaker damage-wise. Great. Halts weaker. Great. As a Junkrat player, my style of Junkrat is based on movement. Everyone, you guys have seen me. Anyone that watches me understands. Like, I move. Concussive Mine, for me, will almost always be used for movement rather than damage. So, less control, less damage. Perfect. That's great for me. Less range. That's great for me because I like to play on the flanks personally. Even though it's only 2 meters, whatever, you know, we'll take what we can get. Graviton Flux. This doesn't really affect Junkrat because we can't really stop it unless we kill him. Which, technically, I have killed a lot of alting Sigmas. We will actually stop that now. And then just technically a buff to Junkrat. It's a buff to everyone, right? It's just nerfed. And then Junkrat now won't get one-shotted by his combo. Baptiste being nerfed. I mean, sure, with he's doing less damage, that's a buff to Junkrat. And doing less healing, that's a buff to Junkrat. Maybe your splash damage means a little bit more, but it's 10 damage. It means more to the Baptiste than it is to the Junkrat. So overall, as a Junkrat player, this is a great patch. Everything helps him. Oh yeah, that's right. McCree, sorry, yes, he will survive Trap Mine. But usually Trap Mine, I mean, yes, it's just one less hero to get with Trap. It's not a big deal. Cool. What about heroes like May or Reaper that already have 250? Would you keep them the same or give them more health? Would I give May more health? What buff would you undo, though? Shooting through people? You could take that away. She would still seem incredibly oppressive. May needs a bit... She's a weird hero because... just her existing, her abilities are really good. Yeah, I wouldn't do it for... I don't think I would do it for Reaper or May. But neither of those heroes... with this change... It's not like... What buffs did they give Reaper and May in the last year and a half? I guess Reaper got his Wraith buffed, his Wraith form buffed, his Shadow Step buffed. I wouldn't consider that a buff to DPS. It just helps him be a better person. Like it just helps him get around more. His damage was never touched. His lifesteal has been reverted. He reloads in Wraith form and alt. That's okay. That's cool. I wouldn't change it. Actually, I wouldn't change anything about Reaper. I think he's fine. May got fall off removed at some point. Yeah, I think that was a while ago though, and that's absolutely needed for May. Without that, May lacks any sort of damage, and if your hero doesn't do damage in FPS, they're useless. And if they have so much utility outside of damage that they're still useful, normally the skill part of Overwatch is your primary and secondary attacks. If you take usefulness away from that and you put it in something else that's just pure decision making, it feels really oppressive because all they have to do is press a button and they beat your team. It's not like wall can be used, you know, improperly, but it's not like someone does wall and you're just like, that was really hard to click in that general area and put a wall up there. So you don't want people to be able to completely dominate through decision making alone as an FPS. Execution is key. In fact, execution should be prime directive number 1. the less you take away from execution, the more people just win by pressing buttons. And that's what they consider a low skill ceiling or low skill floor. And not that I'm against it, but it shouldn't be so low that you quite literally are pressing buttons while people are trying to aim, and that's just not fair. But yeah, right now, Crow, end the YouTube video. I'm done.